In The Dreadful, set against the backdrop of the 15th century War of the Roses, we follow Anne and her mother-in-law Morwen, who live a solitary, harsh life on the outskirts of society. But when a man from their past returns, he will set off a sequence of events that will become a turning point for both Anne and her mother-in-law Morwen. The Dreadful is directed by Natasha Kermani, and she has directed films such as Imitation Girl and Lucky, and The Dreadful will be released in US cinemas starting February 2026. The Dreadful is a well-made but pretty kind of boring, slow burn, gothic horror thriller type of film that really doesn't have a lot of surprises along the way. I'll go off with what I liked about this film. Technically, this film is pretty sound. It looks great, and the setting it really captures this setting because Anne, played by Sophie Turner, and her mother-in-law, played by Marcia Hayden, they live in this like a wooden hut in the 15th century, and it's kind of like on a cliff near a beach, so it's very cold, and you can feel like the cold coming through the screen when you're watching this film. So technically this film really captures that period very well. And the supporting performance from Marcia Hayden as the mother-in-law, she's really true to seriously, she really relishes the role, and she's fantastic in this film. And her mother-in-law, played by Marcia Harden, plays a woman who is waiting for her husband to come back from the war, and Marcia Hayden, as same, is waiting for her son to come back from the war, and they have a pretty, like, they live in the same house, they have a pretty like strange relationship. Marcia Hayden, she uses like religion to gaslight Anne into doing things for her and to pressure her into looking after her, and they're pretty much living on their own in this hut in this village, and they're struggling to survive because there's no income coming in, so they have to steal from people, and they have to pickpocket people, and we find out later in the film that Marcia Hayden is like killing people to steal from them as well, so they can survive throughout the harsh winters. And later on in the film, Marcia Hayden forces her daughter-in-law Sophie Turner to join her in these killing of these people, and even though she doesn't really want to do it, but she feels like a sense of responsibility towards her husband, so she helps out her mother-in-law throughout the film. And then one day a man from their past, played by Harrington, he is a childhood friend of Sophie Turner and her husband, and they played a lot together when they were younger. And this man, played by Harrington, he tells Sophie Turner and Marcia Hayden that Sophie Turner's husband was killed during the war and he's not coming back. And eventually later in the film, Harrington wants to get married to Sophie Turner and get her to live with him and have a child and live happily ever after. And that's basically the film. Like, Marcia Hayden, she's suspicious of Harrington. She never really trusted him, never really liked him at all. And this film is basically about Sophie Turner trying to get away from her mother-in-law, even though she feels guilty, and her trying to have a life with Harrington, and everybody has like their own secrets. So that's pretty much the film. But unfortunately, this film doesn't really have a lot of surprises. That plot is quite simple, and there's no surprises or twists along the way. We're constantly waiting to catch up, because as a viewer we know what's going to happen, and the characters in this film are always one step behind the viewer. So we're constantly waiting for something to happen. And like, we know that Harrington, he's probably not telling the truth. It's so obvious that he's a little bit suspicious. And then later on in the film, Marcia Hayden, like in this film, there's this like knight on a horse that is kind of like in the background of the film. It's sometimes in a dream, sometimes it's real, and it's kind of like haunting all the characters in this film. And we just know that this knight, this mysterious knight who has a helmet on, we just know that he is the long-lost husband and son from the war, but the characters in the film are not aware of this. So as a viewer, we're just waiting for everybody to catch up. So later on in the film, there's a scene where Marcia Hayden, this knight walks up to their wooden hut, and and Marcia Hayden walks up behind him and like it kills him and stabs him and kills him and like slits his throat. And it's kind of supposed to be like this big shocking moment that she kills her own son, but as a viewer we're like, yeah, well, we knew that was going to happen. And later on the film introduces this, like, if you put on this metal helmet, you'll turn into this like vengeful spirit and you haunt other characters in the film. And that was a little bit interesting, but it just introduces that element into the film far too late in like the last 15 minutes of the film. I'll just go through the performances in this film. As I said before, Marcia Hayden, she really relishes the role as the mother-in-law. She really gets to choose the scenery, so she's one of the reasons to see this film. But Sophie Turner, she doesn't really get a chance to do much in this film. She just has basically the one same look on her face the whole film. It's like a mix between like worried and surprise, like that. And Kit Harington, he doesn't really get a chance to develop his character as well. So both of them don't really leave much of an impression in this film. I give The Dreadful 2 stars out of 5. Technically, this film is very sound. It looks great, and the atmosphere and the setting is really spot on, and it has a very nice, delicious performance in a supporting role by Marcia Harden as the evil stepmother or mother-in-law. But unfortunately, this film doesn't really have a lot of surprises, and the plot is very simple, and Kit Harington and Sophie Turner don't really make much of an impression in this film. So this film was a bit of a slow burn ball, unfortunately. Thanks for watching. What did you think of The Dreadful? Please comment below what you thought of the film. See you next time. Bye.